welcome back to Cast Me to Hell with me, Seb.
And with me, Robbie.
And here we are, direct from the cinema after seeing Alien Romulus.
Yeah, we are. One of us may be a synthetic human. We don't know who. Neither of us have told the other. It could be either of us. It could be neither of us. Find out at the end. That's it's the synthetic one.
Yeah.
So we're going to do 15 minutes of spoiler free, and then we're going to get stuck into the spoilers. So obviously, here's the cheap plug. If it's your first time listening, or if you listen to the show, be sure to hit that subscribe button and leave us a lovely review. Get that in nice and early. The main
spoiler free.
It's spoiler free.
And you can't hold us to that 15 minutes.
No, of course.
People messing at us going, I want my time back.
I want my time back.
You went 2 minutes under or 2 minutes over.
We're not owing anybody time.
We're not giving it back to you.
This isn't Justin Timberlake's In Time. As it keeps coming up on fucking TikTok for some reason.
That's just your algorithm.
That's my algorithm.
It's telling you it wants you to watch.
I keep watching the clips, so it keeps showing it to me. I haven't figured them out yet. So Aliens / Alien. Overall, kind of quick view of the franchise. Where do you stand on the films?
I mean, it's good because we've never done an Alien
covered
film.
one. No.
We've never done a single Alien. That's kind of mad. We've done. Did we do? I think. Well,
we did.
Just thinking of similar franchise, Predator, which is all we did together.
Yeah, we did the.
We've done Prey.
We did Prey, which was good.
Is that it? Is that all we've done?
I don't think we've covered any.
I don't think we've done any of it. It's very odd, especially considering for that side of things. Predator is basically one of your favourite films.
Yeah, fucking love Predator.
Yeah, so it's very odd that we have never actually covered any of these kind of sci-fi, that kind of area. Alien, I love Alien. Alien's one of my favourite. You've got those two in my head that just pop together because of Alien versus Predator and things like that link them together. But for me, Alien was my preferred of the two. I think you're the opposite.
You're
a predator.
I'm a predator. I'm a predator fan.
In all meanings of the word.
Yeah, in all facets, I am a predator. I don't even want to spoil that for you. Generally, I prefer the Predator franchise. I think of the Alien films that I've seen. Obviously, I've seen one. I think Aliens is my favourite. Mr. James Cameron. I have seen Alien 3, and then I don't think I've seen Resurrection.
Have you not? You haven't seen all the Alien films?
No,
I'm surprised by that. How have you not seen all the Alien films?
Because I heard that they were dog shit, and and for some reason I have no interest in.
You've seen Prometheus and
I've seen Prometheus
Covenant. I'm sure you've seen it. So
I've seen that.
So you've only not seen Resurrection, which is pretty much the least well-renowned. Although I personally feel that there's not really a bad Alien film. They vary in levels, but it's like any other kind of horror franchise that there's still a lot of fun to be had there, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I'd almost say that actually, out of all of them, Resurrection takes itself least seriously.
Okay,
so it's actually somewhat more of a. It very much falls as that 90s sci-fi kind of. It does have a terrible ending in a lot of ways.
I think I know the ending.
Yeah, so that one, which I'm not going to mention that part now. That's a spoiler free. So let's just say that this film, Romulus, that we're talking about, feels somewhat of a patchwork of a lot of moments of the whole franchise of Alien, and they've kind of just put it into a film because there's a lot of moments that are homage, nostalgia, or just remade. You know what I mean? There's a lot of parts in this one that have a lot of that kind of fleshed together, including Resurrection.
Okay.
Which is very interesting to me, that I kind of felt like somewhat that there was a little part of Resurrection in there. Now, I don't want to say which part because I feel it's a spoiler.
Yeah.
Because it is all very much kind of third acty kind of thing. But that you can get my sense of the Alien franchise because I like pretty much all of them, but they're all very different films.
Yeah.
They all go up and down on levels of fun. Now, Aliens is probably the most fun because it is pretty much an action sci-fi.
And that's
the horror is much less.
Yeah.
Like, not that it's not, and it has got deaths and it's got some really inventive kills and stuff like that. But there's a reason, and I think that's where it takes. Whereas the original Alien is, as Ridley Scott would say, a haunted house film. You know what I mean? It is your suspenseful, slow kind of, and each one kind of takes it in that, and depending on how much they go into the sci-fi elements.
Yeah.
With Aliens, I feel like he wasn't, apart from adding more aliens, he wasn't really trying to further much of the sci-fi storytelling. He was just pretty much kind of like, right, here's the situation. No. Let's fucking survive this horde of aliens.
I mean, more aliens means more sci-fi.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
That's
you can't put that down to James Cameron because he's a master, especially when it comes to a random sequel.
Yeah,
he makes the best of a second film.
Yeah, he does, doesn't he? Piranha: The Spawning, obviously this
exactly.
famous.
Yeah,
it's really interesting that
I love it. It was Piranha: The Spawning before. No, not Terminator 2 or anything like that. No, it's Piranha: The Spawning. That's
of course. That's his biggest film.
That's the greatest film of all time.
That's the greatest film. I kind of find that it's quite interesting you mention it being a patchwork of kind of most of the franchise, because I'm not a massive, I wouldn't say that I'm not a massive fan of the franchise itself. I've seen Alien, I've watched it maybe once or twice to be honest, and that was a long time ago. I really I think Aliens is my favourite of them. I vaguely remember 3, and I don't really have much interest in the rest of them. So to me, I actually thought that when I was watching it, I was like, "There's quite some fresh stuff in here."
Yeah.
At least I thought, in terms of some of the scenes, the way in which it went. It did kind of veer close.
It has new ideas,
yeah,
and then it has some that veer very much into which is mainly what I've heard about this film before we saw it. Kind of thing. I mainly heard they were like, when it's fresh and new ideas, it mainly is really good. When it veers into the nostalgic, almost somewhat remakey kind of elements of some of them, it starts to get kind of not quite as good. And I do think a lot of the problems with this film that are there are mainly due to the parts that somewhat feel like it's just either over nostalgia or using things that shouldn't have been used. And again, there's one spoiler that's in there.
Yeah.
There's a spoiler I won't say about a character who was very questionable and who you even said, like, isn't that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that was quite bad, I thought.
Yeah, and that's it. So there is lots of, if you are an Alien franchise fan, there's lots of moments for you to be like, oh yeah, I get that. There's lots of it packed in there.
Yeah.
If you know the films quite well, including the more controversial Prometheus and Alien Covenant.
Yeah, I mean those are two.
The more modern ones that very much kind of start to veer into kind of, let's kind of explain some of it, but not really explain it. I just rewatched those for the first time in a long time, kind of thing, because I heard there was links to Prometheus and Covenant.
Yeah.
So there's so far. If you haven't seen the film, something you might, because there is a little bit of there is somewhat of a link in there that somewhat kind of takes this story. There's a little bit of Ridley Scott somewhat backpedaling, because obviously he made those two films. Then the second one, Covenant, didn't make enough money.
Yeah.
Pretty much ended his plans for like a trilogy of Michael Fassbender kind of led.
Yeah, and then
he was fucking awesome in his role. It just was convoluted, the ideas that were in there. But the plans going forward in there. But there's a little bit here that somewhat feels like, although it's not, it's kind of Ridley Scott produced this and kind of made it, and a little bit feels a little bit like Fede Alvarez puppeteered by Ridley Scott.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's plenty of it in there, but I think some of the ideas are in there. Just like, can you just make sure my ideas
make sure this
relevant.
is going in.
Yeah, not just Alien. No. You've got to do the ones that people didn't like.
Yeah, you've got to do those ones.
You've got to reference the those parts as well, kind of thing. And I'll talk about what those are when we get to the spoiler part.
Yeah, I mean, I think kind of overall, I did think it was kind of a real good film. I think. For fans of the franchise. For fans.
Only fans.
Only fans who have only fans are allowed to watch this film from now on. For fans of the franchise, I think it looked spectacular. You could tell that the set design They clearly must have watched all of the films whilst they were putting it together, because it looks just like it did in the first one. It kind of follows the same aesthetic.
There's a lot of the aesthetic of, I'd say this is very first and second film aesthetic of this one.
Yeah, I know 3 kind of becomes that kind of like early 90s grunge kind of sci-fi.
Yeah,
we spoke about
3 is its own thing.
Yeah, we spoke about
a
that
mixed bag of mixed directors, and mixed
Horizon,
ideas, and it's got that whole. It's got that whole idea in there. That one's just a very like tonally all over the place kind of, which is understandable because it had several directors.
And I think it looked great. I just think that my main problem with Fede Alvarez films, and I find it's kind of, it was in Evil Dead, it was in Evil Dead Rise. It's been in, I'm trying to think of the other films that I've seen of his. Don't Breathe.
Yeah.
Every film that he does, I find that I just don't care about any of his characters. I find that they're all I haven't cared about any character he's kind of ever made. I think the one I've liked is the brother in Evil Dead. Other than that, I find that I just don't care about his characters. And I was kind of, at the start of this film, I was already like, I just don't give a fuck about these people. And throughout the whole time, I was like, just give me Alien. Just let me see people die. I don't care about these lads.
I liked some of them. I like the main 2 characters. I like Rain, who is the main character, played by, I think it's Carly Spain, something like that. And then there's her brother.
Yeah, I liked her brother. I thought he was a good character.
He's also very good in the film. I'm trying to remember his name. Andy, that's the one. Andy. They say his name enough times. I don't know why I couldn't remember. Andy, yeah. So those 2 characters I quite liked. The other characters pretty much had nothing to them. Some of them were slightly grating. Some of them, the very British ones.
Yeah.
I'd say bordered on not. One of them at least bordered on not even. I feel like directors, especially maybe American directors, hire actors with certain like British accents and think that makes them stand out in a kind of cool way, or they sound kind of more. Not you just said grunge a minute ago. That's why it's on my head. More like.
I think I know exactly what you're on about. Like Youngblood.
Well,
that kind of like
it's almost they
London
think
accent
because they're meant to be like a very low working class kind of thing. They think that that's like that, but half the time that's fine. But the problem is that sometimes they just can't act, and in this case, one of them I just didn't feel could act very well. I felt his acting was subpar and grating, and his whole character had nothing to him except just being a fucking knob.
Yeah, I kind of think that he was one of the characters.
Which is why you have that with some characters. They build them to just purely be things.
I think that's what
you should have a bit more to it. And they try to add something. I think make some of the characters a little bit more like, oh, they've got this, or they've got this, or they've got a reason for this. But it's all very quick. So most of the characters in this, I'll agree, are pretty much just there. They are. It's not well built like in the original Alien or Aliens. You have several of the Marines, say in Aliens, that you kind of build a connection with. In the original Alien, you get to know little quirks about each of the characters. So you do really know them when they start to die, apart from maybe 1 or 2 early deaths kind of thing. Apart from that, they all kind of get to show their character through, and they all have a reasoning. And in this one, I kind of, only the main 2 really. The one extra guy kind of had a little bit more to him, but it just was never that interesting kind of thing. They're not the most interesting characters, and
it's quite a low character, like body count as well. I think there's only maybe
it is
5, 6.
I was surprised somewhat that he's decided to make this one have characters, and there's only there's only like 6 characters in the whole film.
I think so, yeah.
You know what I mean? So, no spoilers as to how many of those die. Some of them die.
Some maybe. It
would be a pretty terrible Alien film if
they all survive.
They all survive the whole thing.
It's over in like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
They just arrive.
They arrive. Oh, let's go.
Unsafe. Yeah.
We should get out of here.
This is scary. I'm too scared for this.
Let's not make any bad decisions.
Yeah.
So there is for fans of the Alien franchise, there are many things. There are callbacks There are characters that you might enjoy, characters that are a little bit built around old characters from the franchise. In terms of the storyline, without giving any kind of spoilers away, it tries to do something a little bit different in some ways. It tries to introduce us to slightly other worlds and things like that. Like we've always kind of been told with Alien that it's kind of, we're going to go back to Earth most of the time, from what I remember. Whereas this one decides to go in a different direction and doesn't even begin on an Earth planet. It's a colony-based planet.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. I think that's minimal detail that we can give those away. You know, it's very much that the whole Wayland Enterprise company kind of seems to have a kind of a control over most of the people that live on these colonies, and they kind of, you know, we have the story of Rain and who want to get, and her group that want to get away from them, kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's the basic plot line of where you get to. We won't say why or how they get onto the ship, but it never follows necessarily. It starts by following, and you think it's pretty much following a pretty standard Alien kind of layout across the film.
Yeah.
You know, certain things happen. They're trying to get on to a ship, then they're trying to get off of the ship because of the aliens and the facehuggers that do arrive in many kind of sometimes forms.
It's a spoiler there.
Yeah.
Fool.
That's not much of a spoiler. Because it all relates back to certain things. But the different forms of, you know, you get facehuggers, you get aliens, you get xenomorphs, I mean. And then that's the bit when it does take a kind of turn. And now this is the bit that a lot of people, and people maybe listening now before they go and see it, might be thinking, I've heard that the third act is quite divisive kind of thing. We've had a year of that. We've had a year of that.
We have.
Films that just keep turning on that, gets that third act, and they suddenly think they really have to change dials.
Have to do something.
They have to do something different, and it has to be different. Which is, you know, if you were coming to this, and based on the trailer for this, if you were coming to this Alien film and you were thinking, I kind of just want them to just go back to the basics of Alien. Or Aliens, maybe. I want to just go back to the basics. No major kind of change, no major kind of having to over-explain or add on any different things. You kind of get that for most of it, but there is a little bit of a turn in the final third part of the third act.
Yeah,
that does somewhat veer away into I could see some people really disliking.
Yeah, I think I could get that.
The turn in this final third act.
I could see that.
I'm not quite sure how I felt about it, and as I've already said, it kind of relates to something in a previous film in the franchise. In my head, that kind of just I couldn't get out of my head. But yeah, I'm not sure. It's done effectively. It looks good.
Yeah.
Most of the time, there are a few CGI parts that look good, but one thing I will say is, for the most part, from what I could tell, a lot of the stuff was practical.
Yeah,
there is a few bad CGI things in there, but for the most part, it is practical. And one problem I had with the last Alien film, Alien Covenant, was the fact that Ridley Scott pretty much made all the xenomorphs, and pretty much everything, blood included, was just CGI. And when I rewatched it, I watched it today, it was just...
Really?
It was just like, oh my god, like a xenomorph runs up to a character in Covenant, by the way, not in Romulus, and literally like goes for a neck, and it's just like blood splatter everywhere, and like one big gushing blood, CGI blood kind of thing. And the xenomorph himself is just CGI, and just like, just why? Like, you were a master of doing these things.
Suit. Come on.
You know what I mean? Ridley Scott, you made the original, and you were a master of making something out of nothing. I know you've got all the money in the world now to do whatever you want, but... Come on, man! Like the rest of his films, by the way, this is the only one thing that makes these films seem somewhat really small. Is his films look, the cinematography is fucking amazing. Like if you remember Prometheus, for instance, beautiful, like gorgeous, huge, everything felt gigantic. Whereas now it feels small, but it's kind of the point because this is going back to a bit more alien.
And it is. It's quite claustrophobic in moments. It is a beautifully shot film, and you do see. When they're flying through space and you see like this kind of space station they're going to, and you know like the kind of like Saturn ring things, or the comet belt, whatever it is, it looks awesome. And there's a lot. And speaking of the effects, I think apart from one that I thought looked dog shit, which I'll talk about in the spoilers, I think there was the odd bit of CGI where I was like, that's clearly CGI, but I don't think it looked like particularly awful. I think a lot of it did look good.
I think because it is all quite dark and shadowy in a lot of it, it would be hard to really spot a lot of it, which is good because that's when it's effective. That's when it's okay to use it. When you want creatures jumping about in the dark, it's like, well, yeah, that's fine because we're not going to notice that. But when you have the creature like right in your face and you do it all pretty much CGI, it's noticeable.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how good it gets. You know what I mean? How good effects get. Even with the new planet, the Kingdom of the Apes and stuff like that. You look at it and you're like, that looks amazing, but it doesn't mean that some of the shots occasionally don't go like, oh, okay, I can kind of see it CGI.
It's a bit spiky.
Like some bits, it's like, this is so gorgeous, and then some bits, it's like, oh yeah, you turned your face and it's kind of good.
You can see the pixels.
Yeah, you can see his pixelation.
See the
just spotted the person underneath your.
And you see the PS2 graphics for like 2 seconds, and you're like, that takes me out of it. Yeah. Not
to dwell on that because those films look beautiful, and this film looks really good too. I mean, I think to wrap up, because it's really hard, because this is just a film about, again, it's about creatures on a thing that go around killing people. It's hard not to get into spoilers of this, so I think it's kind of builds that time to move on. But generally, as a quick summary, and I definitely want to go into a more detailed one later, but as a quick summary, I enjoyed the film. I think it worked really well, somewhat going back to that kind of alien claustrophobic kind of little bit. It has a little bit of aliens in there too, a little bit of a more action-y kind of push it points that you don't really have that much in the original Alien. So it does have a little blend of there. So I do enjoy it, and I think it's fun, and it's definitely worth a watch. But it does veer, I think, too much into nostalgia, and some parts of it felt like odd remake of choices that weren't that well received the first time around. And it also has what I think is a poor choice story-wise to include a character that I think had no reason to be included. Apart from as a little bit of a callback. That's pretty much all that is.
I think I'm in kind of mostly in agreement. There was a lot that I did really enjoy. For me, there was some really fresh moments that I thought, it's going in a way that I didn't expect. I kind of went in thinking, this is going to be very much just like so close to Alien that I might as well just watch Alien. You know? I would have liked some more deaths. I feel like for me, with such a small cast, I feel like there wasn't that much of an opportunity. Knowing the gore levels of Alvarez as well. Whilst it is an 18 and there is definitely gore, I would have liked to have seen a bit more. I think a lot of the gore that we do get is quite quick. But overall, it was pretty good, man. I probably will watch it again. I don't think for me it's got to knock Aliens off the top spot, but I think it was good, man. It was a good entry back into the franchise.
Okay, let's build into that spoiler. So we'll do a little countdown so you can get out of here, go watch it, and then come back and finish the episode
and hit that subscribe button.
And hit that subscribe button.
And leave us a lovely review.
Yeah, don't forget that.
Otherwise, we will come into your house and put face huggers.
Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
We see the xenomorph hangs down. We never expected to see it, but finally,
finally,
11
that's the big twist.
The big twist is
he finally hangs down. I didn't even know they could have dogs.
They didn't have dogs, and they have. And there's a scene where the bell end peels back a little bit, and there's a tiny little dog inside of the big dog.
I mean, to be fair, actually, facehuggers hang lots of dogs.
They hang massive dogs.
They have huge dogs. They have everywhere. And you see him flapping about on the door at one point. It's just flapping its face. Now, I know many alien purists out there will be like, that's not a penis.
That's not a penis.
I mean, but at the end of the day, this film is basically just full of vaginas and penises.
That's what it is.
That's most of the aesthetic of what Ridley Scott designed. Was what could it look like? A giant penis or a vagina?
H.R. Geiger. I think this might be sacrilege to the man himself, because I know that H.R. Geiger does listen to the podcast. I could say that he's never going to listen to this. Nobody's ever going to believe that.
Do you even know if he's alive?
He still listens to the podcast. But I believe he was German. No offense to our German fans out there, but when it comes to sex, they're known to be freaks, in the good way.
You're obsessed with genitalia.
We were obsessed with genitalia, and he drew some weird fucking shit. And the alien is just basically like a bunch of dicks on something, And yeah, it's a fucking mental film.
It just is. I just mean there's just some bits when there's like one of the xenomorphs is like in an egg. It's final, like growing into its side of a stage, and you're just like, that's just a giant vagina.
And somebody,
it's just a giant vagina. Now you've just got a giant vagina leaking and squirting out all over the place.
And somebody
and
would
now
just
there's a penis popping out of that vagina. It's like, what the fuck?
And somebody would take it down and just fucking go to town. Just pop off on it.
That's it. Just all these little eggs and stuff like that. It's just, why do they? And the face hugger with his little like penis just popping out.
Yeah,
it's just like
not little, big dog.
No, fucking huge dog.
Fucking massive,
flapping in their faces. They're on the other side of the door. Like, I just want to fuck you.
I just want to lay my egg in you. That's it.
Yeah, this is one franchise where the whole that kind of
it's a Freudian franchise.
The Freudian franchise. Yeah, it's one of those where it's really not hidden.
No,
it's not a Freudian slip. It's a Freudian slapping it in your face.
Yeah. I mean, so we're into the spoiler thing now, and
big spoilers.
We will admit that we did miss the ferry opening. I was dealing with something that was going to burst out of me, so I had to go and not watch the film for a few minutes. And I think you might have just been in there as it was opening up.
We believe we may have missed. For people that have seen it, one bit that we haven't seen, which we can't review here, which is, I believe, a little opening where you see the Nostromo like spaceship, and they collect it like a sample that has a xenomorph in it, or a sample of his xenomorph inside of it.
And that would have been cool. I'll be honest.
That would be cool, and we will watch that again, so we'll just see that part, I'm sure. But yeah, we missed that little opening bit, so we only came in post kind of. Once the credits had rolled and once we first meet Rain's character.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were a little bit like kind of pushed for the time today.
Yeah, we were.
You rudely.
Rudely.
He had to go to a doctor's appointment.
He
chose his own health over
the podcast.
He should, that's just. I mean, he should be ashamed of himself.
I will flag rate myself on the next episode. I will give myself 10 lashes.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what it is. You could be missing your dialysis treatment or
yeah,
whatever it is.
I could do that.
Doesn't matter. You should.
I have to be there for it.
You should not. You should have been on time.
I should have been on time.
How rude.
That's very rude.
Yes, and we also had to pretend to be deaf because we went to a subtitle screening.
Well, I do the subtitles.
Yeah, I was going to say that was right up your street. So we did get to see a subtitled version, which is quite helpful at times.
Yeah,
making sure you catch the dialogue.
And I'm hard of hearing, so it does. It kind of actually really benefited me. Although about halfway through, and I get this with subtitles, I forgot that the subtitles were on. I had them very much at the start, and then I kind of just like phased them.
Oh, it always happens. Even when it's a foreign film, I literally just start to think in my head. I've just heard them speaking English this whole time.
Yeah.
It just blends in.
I'm just master of all languages. Yeah. So I just know what they're saying.
It literally does. It's just like that. It's like I think you do completely forget that you're like scanning it while watching. Kind of thing. It just happens. It just
happens real quick, doesn't it?
For me, I don't. It's probably not the same for everyone, but that's why I'm always a bit like when people are like, "Oh, I don't like to watch foreign films because like you have to read the subtitles and it means I can't pay attention." For me, it doesn't work like that. I've literally, at first I might be paying attention for the first couple of minutes, and then it just zones out. It's like in my head, it's like I don't remember the words at all. I just remember. I literally in my head. It's like I'm hearing the words back to me in English, kind of thing. I'm hearing a character say it. That's my autism.
That's just the voices in your head,
I just made up the
dialogue. That's just the
psychosis.
You just make up the dialogue. Well, I said someone earlier that I forgot to take my book to work, so I wasn't going to be able to read whilst waiting for the appointment. And I was like, that's fine. I'll just make up the rest. I'll just sit there and imagine what's going to happen.
I'll just make it all up. Yeah.
I'll just make it up, and then just do this podcast. This is what they were saying. This is what happened. I didn't watch the film. Couldn't be bothered, mate. I see an alien.
All these, I know what
it
subtitles. I just make up.
Make up my own story.
I mean, you'll never have a happier, more family-friendly film than The Boy in Striped Pajamas.
The Boy in Striped Pajamas.
They had a lovely friendship, and then they went off for, I think they went off for a swim at the end of the film. They went to a little community centre or something like that.
I was on my phone.
They had a barbecue, I assumed because of the smoke.
It was a great time, had my all.
It was lovely. It was a lovely time.
Happy story.
That's what happens in all those films.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to Alien Romulus.
Today,
a very jokey mood today, apparently.
Yes.
Only funny to us.
Only funny to us, nobody else. Yeah, it was. I think like I enjoyed like the opening that we saw when they were kind of like on this colony planet.
Yeah.
From the Alien films that I've seen, a lot of the time it does take place on that space in the ship. When they get to Hadley's Hope in Aliens, you know, it's already been destroyed. We don't really get to see what these colonies look like.
I mean, yeah, we don't normally get to see the planets or anything. Like, we never see anything before, kind of thing, and we don't get much context of the actual kind of planet. So it is a nice. That's one part that's nice, quite refreshing. At this one is the start of it. We kind of get to see what the kind of colonies are like. Again, not referred to as it's not Earth, and it's not, and it's referred to.
It's all very Weyland-Yutani kind of life.
And in the other ones, they are very much referred to as mainly just we're going back to Earth, or we can't let that get back to Earth, kind of thing. So it's quite Prometheus. I know definitely says, and Alien definitely says, we can't let this get back to Earth, kind of thing. So it all still very much sounds like they're doing this exploring from Earth to there, kind of thing. Which is nice that this one we actually get to see that Weyland Leani Enterprises has Weyland or whatever has spread across like to other colonies, and there's several colonies out there spread across that they found, obviously, that allow life, kind of thing.
And the future looks fucking shit.
Yeah,
like
it's all very dystopian
dystopian kind of like gritty industrial.
You have to work. That's what for your living, basically. You have to work to be free. So
it's that thing of like, you know, unchecked and unfettered capitalism, just fucking running a train.
Well, I think it's basically implied that basically, we saved your family's life, or we saved your life by bringing you to this colony from whatever Earth is now.
Yeah.
So we saved your life, so therefore you've got to work off years of your life in order to have that. And that's what they have. They've got to work off years of their life.
Yeah.
And she, at the start of it, our main character, Rain, thinks that she's done that. She thinks she's worked the years she was told she had to work. Yeah. And now the second she goes to ask them, they're like, nah, sorry. We're low on people, so basically you've got to work an extra 25% of whatever hours you did. So that's just another 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just like, for fuck's so obviously absolutely pissed with a cybernetic brother who is, who just is at the start of the film is not maintained as an organism.
It's like an old droid.
He's an old droid, and he just cracks all dad jokes and mainly just supports her along, which he's one of the few characters I think has quite an endearing quality to him. Now I think you missed some of his endearing quality parts in the start. He's made their relationship was kind of that first couple of minutes was mainly their relationship.
That's what I was dealing with
while you were getting rid of your own
stomach burst. That's what we'll call it. You know.
So there's a nice little kind of bond that we get there, but it doesn't hang around. It quickly gets to. She finds out about that, and another character asks her to come over to talk to them. So her ex-boyfriend Tyler basically rings her up and goes,
"Partners,
come on, like I've got something to ask you. We've got that, So they get over to there, go to the house, and the whole bunch of their friends. You've got Tyler. You've got his pregnant sister Kay.
Oh yeah.
Who we don't find out straight away, but they'll quickly work that out. Cousin Bjorn, absolute prick.
Yeah, he was a prick.
Bjorn's girlfriend Navarro.
I
didn't get girlfriend. Not gonna lie, I did not get that they were boyfriend and girlfriend.
I didn't get the.
I mean, it makes more sense why he was like mega bothered later on that she was, but I didn't get any romanticism between them in any scene. And this group come together. Basically, the plan is there is a ship that has been abandoned up just outside the atmosphere, and they're thinking we can go on there and we can get the cryogenic chambers so that their little ship will be able to make it. Well, they'll be able to make it to whatever it's called, Yaga, something like that.
Yeah, Yagav.
Yeah, so a little planet that they want to get to, so that they can live a new life, kind of thing.
Yeah,
that's what they're working for.
Utah.
They were working for freedom to be able to go to what is meant to be more of the more free planets.
Yeah,
the one that's like that. So they're all making a plan to get there, and that's the basic sell that we've got for it. All of this, it's nice to get a different perspective. We normally have either scientists or Marines. That's mainly what we
or prisoners.
You have got alien
quite a
prisoners.
complex stuff. What about Resurrection? What are they?
That's basically like a crew kind of thing that come together, like on the ship kind of thing. It is kind of another kind of crew who are made up of scientists and basically
nerds.
They are. I think they are more kind of thieves and made up of a ragtag. It's kind of blending. It's kind of mixing the scientists, Marines, and the prisoners into one kind of group of like, here we are, a ragtag group, and then obviously Prometheus and Covenant are mainly scientists or explorers or
nerds.
Those kind of things. They're all kind of all these nerds. They're all but most of the time it felt like here you have got a kind of common kind of. There's always someone that's trying to find out something new or find an example of something, or trying to find a new thing, and then there's also the Marines who are there to protect them or help them, or there's the more fight ones, and we've kind of got that kind of happens a lot. So this one a little bit of the feels a bit more kind of like that kind of more like a teen kind of horror.
It does,
very much within Alvarez's area of expertise of having a bunch of teens who kind of get themselves, if you think Don't Breathe, a bunch of kids breaking in someone's house,
there's
a bunch of kids broken into
that stuck out to me quite early on. I was kind of like, there's no real like age ranges. They all are very much,
Yeah, it's very much that kind of slightly younger cat, and it's basically now there is one thing that kind of made me consider with this kind of thing, is because I think in many ways this film was originally made with the intention of going on to Hulu or Disney Plus.
Okay.
So it was the same with Prey. Obviously ended up on there, but Prey was also the original intention was to go onto there.
Yeah.
Other films from Fox, for instance, The First Omen was made for Hulu streaming. It wasn't made for cinema release. Okay, so this is when Disney Plus were trying to get like loads of content. This is kind of what caused the problem with Disney, I think, is the fact that they had Fox and stuff like that, so they thought, we're going to start mining. I think even Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, I think even that. I think all of those films were mining IPs that they could do exclusive stuff for Disney Plus or for Hulu that they could then get subscribers on. So that was their focus at one point in time, was get people onto it. So, especially when the cinema stuff was less, like, not doing as well, they thought that. Now, that's what changed between different CEOs of the company. They had their old one, he got replaced by a new guy. The new guy went, right, it's all about streaming now. Load as much on, get all the IPs, mine them, make stuff. We're going to put it on streaming. We'll have the biggest streaming. That's what's going to make us all the money. The problem was that completely fucked cinema because then they went, well, there's not a lot for that, and you've got a lot on here. But the problem is, a lot of people don't. If they're going to see it on there, then they don't see the point of going there, and you're screwing your own business because we still make a lot of our money out of the cinema more than we do out of the streaming. So that's when that guy got fired, and then they brought back the old guy who'd been doing it for ages. And he's now the one that's kind of course correcting basically all the stuff that was made to go onto streaming is now like, no, that's going to cinema.
Well,
these are all films for cinema. Yeah, this is the point. This did well. I mean, First Omen didn't do as well. Prey, I think the thing it got, Prey was fucking awesome. Prey was the one definitely should have got a cinema release. I think the next one is going to get a cinema release.
Well, I read Fede Alvarez and the guy who made Prey.
Trachtenberg or something.
Considering making an Alien vs Predator.
I think
co-director.
I think that's what Alvarez was. I think that's an idea that Alvarez has thrown out there, going, we should basically do like a From Dusk Till Dawn kind of thing, where Tarantino, Rodriguez, and we should do like he films parts. I'll do the Alien parts, he'll do the Predator parts, and then we'll kind of come together to mash up the rest of it, like to make our own like mega kind of thing, which that was a big, and to be fair, Alien vs Predator, as much as people might show, those films actually made a fuck ton of money back in the day.
Get Colin Salmon back as well. You know, who is?
Did Colin Salmon survive this film?
Don't you retcon it?
Oh, yeah.
Also, I find it very strange that Colin
Salmon's
Salmon
in EastEnders.
I'm gonna have to watch it. But I find it really interesting that Colin Salmon had like 2 or 3 roles where they cast him as like a real hard ass Marine. But his name is Colin Salmon, and he's a really like soft spoken man, you know. Like, he was in Resident Evil, Alien vs Predators.
He had a point where he was very much of that genre of man. Like early 2000s, Colin Salmon was your go-to guy.
He was peak.
Yeah, he was the guy to go for if you're making an early 2000s sci-fi horror
action film. Yeah,
like you've got to have Colin Salmon in the cast.
I'm surprised he wasn't in like Ghosts of Mars or something, man. You know, that is kind of like the perfect film for him.
He was.
I haven't
Just
watched
in the
it.
background.
Oh, was he?
No,
I could have.
No, he was replaced by Ice Cube.
Exactly. That's the problem. That film would have been a success for Colin Salmon.
With Colin Salmon. I've completely lost my train of thought.
We've gone off. We've lost ourselves.
Yeah. So. So we were talking about all the street like Prey being awesome, and it's a cool idea, and I think it could actually totally work, kind of thing. And it is kind of mining, kind of doing these new things, but I think here Alvarez definitely, he definitely gets to have a kind of. He's slightly his own tone, I guess. He's kind of trying to bring to it. I think the younger audience is definitely part of that. Having the younger kid. Like, it seems like that's mainly what he's done so far. Is mainly with a younger kind of cast, kind of thing, bringing them into a franchise, and kind of that's one way of kind of making it so you're not just living completely off of just old characters popping up and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But as you mentioned in the spoiler-free part. That I do think apart from Rain and Andy, the rest of them only get momentary bits of actually much that we know about them, kind of thing. We find out, so as like a little like wrap up of things we do find out. For instance, we find out Kay is pregnant.
She's up the duff.
That's pretty much it, because then she's asleep for a good portion of the film.
Yeah.
Of the first 2 acts, mate. In the first 2 acts, she's mainly just in her kind of thing.
Yeah.
She has to travel. To part of that, we've got Bjorn, such a weird guy name.
But I think that's a kind of. I think it's a man's name, but what I find strange is
for who it is. If it was Bjorn and it was some like Swedish German,
dude,
then I'd be that. But this is some like East End,
and that's what I mean.
Chav.
That's what I mean. It's kind of really weird
to have that name with him. He basically hates synthetics because his mum died, and we're basically told like, his mum died, and basically the synthetic, decided that actually, I need to. I'm going to save 10 people and have to kill 3 people. Yeah. Or basically, we're all going to die in this mine crash. So I get it. Like he killed it, blames it. Seems a bit unjust in some ways that he blames that on all the synthetics for that choice.
Of course.
Obviously, but he doesn't make any light out of it because it's unjust, because he just basically treats Andy like a complete prick the whole time.
Yeah,
he constantly more. I think we've had lots of characters in this franchise that don't like the synthetics and don't like the way they act and stuff like that, and don't trust them, kind of thing. But he's probably the most out and out, just obnoxiously kind of somewhat annoying with it.
I think that's what he is, isn't he? That's his whole vibe. He's the bell end.
His character is grating, I found very quickly, because it's basically just the same thing. It's like every single time. Literally, it's like every time Andy does anything, he turns back around and basically makes the same argument, like, basically shouting in his face.
But to be honest, I found that was actually something interesting. Other than that, I just thought like these characters have nothing to them. Even the main character, I didn't think any of them were like particularly bad in terms of their performances. I just felt like they were just bland characters. You know, they look they were the equivalent of the fucking slot they eat in the Matrix.
That group we don't. Yeah, I mean we don't learn, especially what was it Navarro. We get basically barely anything from her.
Yeah,
you know, she's on the ship for part of it while they're first like tracking around the ship. While it's Bjorn, Tyler and Andy are first like kind of having a look around until they get stuck in that cryo chamber. Kind of glossing past that one because there's not a lot to it. It's basically just kind of
creeping around this empty ship.
You know, creeping around in the dark. Most of it black and white. You know, not black and
white.
Most of it black.
It goes black dark. And white for a short moment.
Black and white for a minute. You know, and yeah. I think that's why I said it was great about him, because half of that kind of move around was basically just him. Basically, every other move, basically going back to it again and again, and it was just like, all right, when are we going to kill this dude off? When's this dude dying? But yeah, his apparently girlfriend. I don't think there's any context in the film. I don't actually. It must have been said at some point and missed the line, but. I don't remember any like closeness with them, but apart from that, apart from finding, you know, basically she sets herself up for what's going to happen to her because she finds an X-ray and she's like, oh, look at that, and, it's like, and then, you know, when it comes to the moment when we have the face hugger start to hatch, you know,
that was a really cool bit.
Yeah,
you know, they go to the cryo chamber, and I find that it is difficult when you're making kind of a sequel to such a legendary film like Alien, where you know the acid blood, you know the face huggers, you know all of that stuff, and it's hard to keep some kind of mystique to it. So instead, you have to kind of build the suspense in other ways. And I like that, you know, we get the hole in there in the floor, and then when they get into the cryo chamber room, they're like, oh, no systems are in here working, and then the android is like only the cooling effect, and everybody said, oh, it's so cold. And then you kind of get to the very back where you see these, you know, face huggers, not in eggs but in some weird fucking like
they basically look like you know, air vacuum,
yeah,
something like that, like steaks.
Like
when you buy a steak in the shop and it's been air vacuumed,
it's kind of like that.
They're basically that. They're like air vacuumed into like they're sealed, preserved perfectly.
But there's loads of them, isn't there?
Tons of them.
There's tons of them, and that's cool. And then as you know, when they take,
it's getting hotter and hotter in the room, you're seeing them like slowly pop, pop, as they in the background as they're trying to like, you know,
slide down into the water and stuff, and that bit was really cool. I was thinking, are we going to get the typical thing where they find an egg and some fucking idiot is like, oh, look at this space egg, I'm going to hold my fucking head over it, you know? Like, instead of poke it with a stick and stay, you know, far away, you're gonna like go and just put your face directly over this egg and just stare at it as it opens,
just wait, you know?
For it, kind of. And I was like, are they going to do that? You know, is that what they're going to do?
No, they do completely. There's definitely, I'd say, there's less of those kind of, and you do get them with any horror movie, but you do sometimes get them with the alien ones where it feels a little bit too like, why are you going up to that thing, or why are you going near that thing, kind of thing. I remember that was one of the biggest things, I think, with one of the earliest deaths in, say, Prometheus was two of the signs that basically like, oh, like this weird creature comes up and he's like, it's fine, it's okay, it's fine. It's like, it's a fucking alien creature. You don't just
on a strange planet.
On a strange planet where you've already seen things that can really fuck people up, and you're like, yeah, it'll be fine. It's like, no, you fucking retard.
Yeah.
I've used that word
again.
Cancel me now.
Yeah.
But still, it is literally like, what the hell? Like, why are you doing that, man? Like, come on, dude. You know, there were less of those in this, actually, those kind of really obvious, like, this is going to get you, you know. They fight really hard when these facehuggers start jumping out the water.
Yeah.
They are, like, bashing. You've got him, like, you know, his dick slapping all over your face.
Yeah, it's like your dick tail.
You know, Bjorn's getting a good, like, wafting all over his face and getting covered in whatever it's coming out of him. And it, like, he's trying to bat it off, and they've got like he finds like an electric stick. He starts like whacking around. Yeah. Luckily, not dumb enough to start like pushing it towards the water.
Into the water. I just killed myself.
Like boom, everyone's dead. And they're all fighting off, and obviously this is also why they're with Andy. They're trying to get to change his
module.
You know. So and he does. Well, he's at this point. He's already had.
He's trying it out.
They've taken it out of the android the mysterious android that is half in half and found
face down.
Yeah. So we're like, oh, who's the android?
Mysteriously found face down.
Yes, I think so. Face down. And I kind of guess because I can see the look knowing the franchise. I kind of guessed who that android was.
Yeah.
Come back to that in a minute. But the whole like having that many facehuggers all like jumping as well like is quite cool. I'd say that these guys somehow managed to survive better than characters previously in the franchise who had a lot more training than them. Somehow these guys managed to deflect them when normally they're pretty fucked pretty quick when there's a lot of facehug. Whereas these guys managed to not get like caught by them and knocking them off and not getting like tangled and yeah, so they do a pretty good job. Whereas what's his name, Navarro, the second the door opens, it's like hey, straight onto her face. She doesn't get, I think it's because I don't know if they're trying to apply because she's the one that's literally ready to just leg it before they've even opened the door. She's like, I'm getting out of it, basically. Yeah. They're like, well, for that you get this.
Yeah, and it's quite, it's quite. It's a great scene. You get all of the facehuggers, and as they slip through the door, they all kind of like.
You're seeing them all like breaking through, cracking the door,
and they're fucking rotten those things.
Yeah, and there's tons of them. As they have to move quickly into the next room, you just see a whole hallway full of them.
Yeah,
which is a really creepy kind of scene and shot. On top of one thing we know that Alvarez does do quite well is quite suspenseful kind of scenes. So he's a good choice for director, I think, because of he's quite good at claustrophobic kind of stuff. And that's kind of what Alien needs, especially when you're doing one that's just purely mainly on one ship.
Yeah,
kind of thing. It feels like it's needed, and those scenes, especially that with them sneaking through the water, popping out, or not knowing where they're going to arrive, that worked really nicely. This then takes us to our first, very what I think will be quite divisive, is the reveal of the android. Once they get it up on the side, the android wakes up to reveal that it's named Rook, but it is Ian Holm. From the original Alien film, who in that film obviously it's a big twist and reveal that he's actually synthetic and that actually he's working for the company to try and get in that, and that's kind of a twist in the original film. It's him in the first one and it's Lance Henriksen in the second one.
Yeah, Bishop.
As Bishop, which that was what popped into my head because one thing is I understand. This one is meant to take place, I believe, between Alien and Aliens. Yeah. So it's in between the two. But there's also kind of in my head thinking, well, there's still no reason why, I know they go back onto the Nostromo kind of thing, so they're trying to imply it's, I don't know if they're trying to say it definitely is the same one, or if it is another one that was also on this other ship. Because obviously in the original, he gets cut in half. But it's confusing because he's cut in half over the acid pit where it's burned through everything. Yeah,
I think it's the same model. I don't think it's the same one.
And that's the thing. I think, so it's the same model, and therefore, my only problem in my head is therefore another character like Lance Henriksen could have done the job of being Bishop instead of being the Rook kind of thing. Because Lance Henriksen's still alive. And Ian Holm's dead.
But I guess the in-universe explanation would be that the Lance Henriksen model hasn't been developed yet. We're still on the Ian
possibly.
Holmes,
I just think because this one's after Alien, therefore there's enough leeway to go, right, well, this is a new model. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
this is the new, just purely for in terms of, because I think the main divisive thing that some people are going to go with is it feels oddly disrespectful to bring back a character when the
person's
died
dead
4 years ago. When he's already passed. Whereas going with the character,
didn't they say Peter Cushing?
They did Peter Cushing in Star Wars. They did recreate him in that.
But he was ripped, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was long rib. long like go. They did it with Peter Cushing in Star Wars for what I think it was a scene or two in there kind of thing. And that was the thing. When his first one thing was like, because you turned to me and I was like, isn't that? And I was like, yeah, and you were like, looks dog shit.
It looks fucking ass. When he was on the monitor, it looked really good.
on the monitor and far shots, but when you zoom right into his face, when he was having a conversation with someone, right in the
far
face.
shots, man.
I think some of them because I think they use like a puppet or something like that for some of it. There was a bit of animatronics going on there.
It looked like, you know when you see Simon Cowell now. It looked like that. It looks just like computer generated.
It looked like a deep fake that you could make on your phone at points. You literally looked like you could see the line where they'd superimpose the face onto basically a puppet.
Yeah,
I was looking at it, I was like, it's really like blurry around the top of his head at some point.
And across the forehead.
It's like it's like his forehead was moving partially, and then the rest of it wasn't moving because that's where they'd imposed the moving face onto it.
Yeah, it was horrendous, man.
You know, you assume that all of this is done with the approval of family. And,
I mean, you'd hope so.
Family or things like that. I don't know Ian Ho's family. I don't know whether they think it would be a nice, respectful thing or whether they're just like, well, that's one way to make more money out of him.
I mean, but Disney are pretty fucked. Did you hear about that guy who had the allergic reaction to the food at Disney World?
I know his wife did. His wife died.
His wife died.
His wife died of an allergic reaction to a Irish pub or something like that.
And then
they're trying to use the Disney Plus.
Then he signed up to Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Well, she signed up to Disney Plus 3 years ago for a free trial, so it's fine.
And and I think you signed up when you were buying the tickets or something like that as well, so you knew you were all in the good.
Yeah, and I could imagine them being Disney, especially being like. You know, he made a film.
I think because this is like their lawyers, and everyone else is like, you'd think about the fact that you're going to kind of ruin your client's reputation slightly here by using that as your. Yeah. You've really got nothing else. You can't just pay out. Even though I think I heard that it's not actually even a Disney owned restaurant. It's kind of just part of within a. It's not related, or it's within the grounds, but it's not actually owned by Disney or something like that. So they're like, why are you guys going so hard for a defense of such a terrible defense? When it's not even necessarily you guys. He just named you in the thing as well, or whatever.
Fucking mental.
It's so weird. Yeah, I really for all of law and humanity, I very much hope that is written off by the judge straight away, going, fuck no, we're not making that precedent of law. Oh great, yeah, from now on every time anyone signs any contract like Apple, it's just like that, basically we can legally kill you now because Disney won that one, you won't get anything for anything anymore.
No, you did pay 99p to download a Sean Paul single 10 years ago, so we can kill your family. that was in there.
That's literally what it literally sounds like. I mean, South Park already did this like 10 years ago.
Of course,
the Human Centipede one that they did. You know, they already were like, you're signed up to it. But isn't it mad that literally, I think somewhere in any Disney contract that you've signed, or maybe this is just the American ones anyway, but it literally says something about the fact that basically anything that happens will be taken out of court, or you'd have to settle out of court, and that's in their contract, which links to anything that you do within Disney. It's like mad,
mental.
That could happen, but how many other companies are going to go? Shit, that's a good idea.
Let's do that. Yeah.
Let's all do that. Fucking hell. But it is really odd. I don't even know if this is necessary. You know, I know it's 20th Century Fox, which is now owned by Disney and stuff like that. But I don't know if you can even say the faceplant thing is just a Disney thing anymore. I think they've done it in other franchises.
I think they have,
but
as well. It looked really bad in this. It did. It was the only thing that really stuck out to me.
I generally just didn't quite get. I didn't really get why it was needed most of the time. The fact that you're using a past character as somewhat of, apart from the aliens, he's kind of the other somewhat villain in the game.
He's kind of like he's an antagonist.
Yeah, it's weird but I feel like and the synthetic has sometimes been the good guy and the antagonist in other ones of these films. It just feels a bit weird to like revisit that kind of antagonist. To bring that in is like a big kind of like we're really taking that from that other film.
Yeah,
and to use him like that when, to me, it seemed like the more obvious version was Andy had his information put into his head.
That would have been
Andy is the thing. Andy has all the it's the fact that they quickly go with no. Andy is technically corporate now. He's now part of the business of Wayland or whatever.
He's corporate.
He now is upgraded. He has all the moves and stuff. He has basic knowledge of the xenomorphs, but he does not have that android's memories and isn't basically that android in that head.
Yeah.
No. That would be taking it too far. And when I'm literally just there like, no.
That's
Andy being the bad guy for a portion of the film, not just... I think it's because they still wanted Andy to feel somewhat sympathetic, and if he fully turned into then you wouldn't want him to go on that journey. But I'd say it kind of comes at the detriment. I think without the Ian Holm Rook character in the film, I think it would have been better, to be honest.
Same.
Or keeping him to video recording, like he pops up like he's in the mainframe of the system or something.
Yeah,
would have worked better than having him just there, kind of thing, because it just doesn't look good.
No, it really kind of broke the immersion of the film.
Yeah, I just think it does, and I think for some people they're going to have a real problem with bringing back the dead in this way.
I mean, I could see that.
Because he's such like, if he'd just been for a moment to be like the androids there as they pass it over, and they had a moment to be like, oh, it's that character, it's him, purely just to take the thing out of his head and move it across.
Yeah.
And that would have been, a little bit of fan service, a little bit of, it's the same synthetic.
Model.
But he plays a fairly big part in the structure of the film. So that's the part I think that plays badly. Even with the Peter Cushing thing, he was only in there 1 or 2 because they were like, that character, it doesn't make sense for them to be, Darth Vader. At that time, it had to be him because he was in control. So we need to have him in there. This I don't think needed, and it wasn't needed.
No, it felt kind of necessary.
I think it's one of the negatives on the film, kind of thing.
Whereas when Andy put the chip in, and he started to become corporate, and you see that he is kind of evolving. He says his AI's improving, and he kind of goes into that like corporate mode. He starts being like, we need to. My prime directive now is the best interest of the business. I feel like they should have leaned more into that, because that was quite cool. It was quite cool to see him go from being like this protective android synthetic to being a bit of a bear
quite a low level kind of like knowledge base to having this suddenly like extra power and was it David Johnson he's one person that is getting called out quite a bit for his performance, because it's kind of like he does take it to different levels, and there's quite somewhat a bit more of a depth to his like synthetic that some of the other ones in the franchise maybe haven't had as often, except for maybe that original one. Ian Holmes one was the one that kind of, because he basically was a human for most film until that
bit twist,
kind of thing. Which I think they probably, of all of them, Ian Holmes one in the original is kind of the most standout of them, and I'd say this is the next one that's the most interesting. Then again, I'm taking away from Bishop's cool, but there's not much else to, because he is like wasn't as much for Hendrickson to do, because he's just that.
I think it's
he's
twist,
the good guy, isn't he? Like, is the twist is not the. Whereas, to be honest, actually, out of all of them, does I think, if we're talking about one of the synthetics in the franchise, then technically I think Fassbender probably has to get it, because he has the most complex.
Yeah.
He got to be the true villain. Like, he turns into a proper, and especially in Covenant, he is a full-on psychopath.
He's nuts.
And he plays 2 roles, and that one has 2 different synthetics, so I think Fassbender maybe has the winning, because he gets the most to do, kind of thing.
Probably,
and he's a fantastic actor.
Fassbender.
But so that bit doesn't really work that well, and obviously we've now got the whole we get Navarro, who basically we get the whole once Andy is back in his prime directive is now changed, and he's basically told that he has to do in the best interest of the company, and now realizes that we need to get rid of him. Now as they've got Navarro in the room, he's like, I need to get rid of you, and we have that whole like chase bit where this kind of big spectacle part where where we have Bjorn gets Navarro back onto the ship, Kay's still on the ship. We're like getting out of here because they think Andy's trying to kill her, when I think he's trying to separate her from the rest of them. Because he is aware of what is going to come. And then we get the whole explanation of like a reason for them to have to get to the other side of the ship, because their ship blasts off and Navarro's chest starts to burst, and we get the classic kind of splattering all over Kay, who doesn't understand what's going on because she hasn't been involved in any of this.
No,
she's like, what the hell is happening?
And
again, the only one thing that Navarro's character got was the X-ray, I think.
To
be able to show off the X-ray, which we also thought was going to look cooler than it was. It didn't really show it enough. I get it. The technology is trying to show the technology isn't like super advanced, but
they have spaceships and androids.
No, but I mean, like, they were trying to say that it just kind of shines the light and shows the bones, but it doesn't like fully like.
Yeah.
Because of that, it flashes through, but you kind of only just see something moving, and it's quite dark, and it doesn't. It didn't. I thought the effect was going to be more like her brace bursting through as you saw the X-ray going through or something like that.
Or I expected it to linger on it, maybe.
Yeah, I thought because of Alvarez, and I thought it would be a bit more, and also because one thing about say Prometheus and Covenant is actually Ridley Scott somewhat upped the ante of the gore. They were actually quite gory, some of the deaths in those ones. So I thought Alvarez would go fully for like, let's just go for it kind of thing. But this was quite a simple kind of short little splatter. I'd say the original's Alien was more violent than this.
Yeah, definitely. Man.
You've got a little alien that pops out and doesn't really like this little alien's barely like getting through the chest and not really know what to do. Little runty boy. While they're all freaking out and stuff like that, and after the crash and stuff like that, and then obviously the whole thing crashes down. So now they've got now they need to get all the way across to the other side.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we get a cool scene where they have to go through the face huggers.
That was really cool, man. And that's what I mean.
Up the temperature in the room.
And that's what I mean about like doing something quite fresh. I don't recall there being,
No.
a scene where you see loads of face huggers.
These kind of there are some of these standout bits where they're kind of, especially the face huggers, I don't think they've been built on too much in quite a lot of the other ones kind of thing.
Where seeing them like learning obviously how they hunt.
I feel like Alien vs Predator used the face huggers a lot more than some of the actual just standard films ever used the face huggers. But this seems really like we've got the room that's like heated up so that they're like they can't see the body temperature like the face huggers can.
Yeah.
They're really like sneaking through, even being aware of like their body like
sweating,
all that kind of thing, and like looking around and like. But on contrast to this, we also now have there's an alien out and Kay is now on the so we get side by side as they're getting ready to do this. The alien is starting to develop already. Like it's already shed its skin. Obviously, she's woke up. Navarro's dead, and that's when Kay sees the pod.
Yeah,
the one that we were talking about before, the one that just basically is a giant vagina.
On the wall. Yeah, the one somebody definitely would pop off into.
Wow, so I mean, this is the thing. Like, not only was it that, like, dripping wet.
It was dripping wet and opening.
Bjorn basically wakes up and his first decision is like, right, you stay quiet. They're like looking at each other. Kind of look like they're about to kiss, which is really. This is weird. Did you get that moment when they're like when he first comes up to quiet and they both kind of like just stare at each other, this lingering long stare? I was like, you dudes about to kiss because apparently your girlfriend just died. I didn't know that at the time. We didn't know that, but I'm just almost saying like, and that's where I was like, she said that it was some random like guy, and I was thinking it would be that
some guy just nutted in her.
Yeah, that's why I thought it would be him. I thought Bjorn was the thing, so that's why I was like, oh, is this where it's about to reveal? Basically, like, yeah, which may have added an extra attention to the relationship with Navarro if we had any fucking clue that she was actually his girlfriend.
Yeah.
But, I was like, it was and because they didn't kiss or do anything, I was like, then that was just really weirdly based to, like, have this, like, lingering shot for about 10, 20 seconds of just, like...
staring.
As they kind of slowly move around each other and just like, okay, all right then.
Yeah.
All right, now what are you going to do? Oh yeah, there's an electric thing over there. He grabs the giant, turns up the power, and his first idea with the giant vagina is to stick something inside.
Stick it in there and fucking have a go.
And he just pumps right inside of that, and he electrocutes it and thinks it's working so well. As Kay gets towards the door, and obviously, that's when you see a little spike pop out at the end.
Yeah.
And I think it slices across his eye.
Yeah, I think it kind of pokes it in the eye. Cuts his eye out.
As he gets that, and obviously he's damaged it because you can see more stuff like dripping out of it.
Yeah.
And it starts to get onto him, and as he hits in the eye, it starts to drip on his arm. And this was a cool death.
It was.
I thought it was cool to actually. The other ones, I guess, in terms of technology stuff, never take quite as long to linger on the acid, whereas this one did take its time to linger.
I like to see his hand
burning
dissolve
through his arm as the spots were starting. You saw it start to burn his chest, and the blood's pouring out as he starts to try and do it. But the the main bit that you really see is his hand, isn't it?
Yeah, that was awesome.
You see his hand start to literally dissolve down to bone and stuff like that, which was really cool.
And that's why I was like, oh shit, we got to see like full frontal nudity in this film. Are we seeing proper gore? Because it was quite gory, and I thought, oh, maybe it's got a drip like on his skull and from his brain.
And this is the thing where, again, I think in our heads, Alvarez, we're thinking, and maybe this is just because of Evil Dead, but maybe. Thinking it's going to pump to that next level, and then it just like, look, he sees his hands, but then suddenly it's just dead. Yeah. Which makes sense. It was burning a hole through his chest, so it's going to hit his heart and die. So he just suddenly basically dies because the acid finally hits his heart and dead. But, because we're in this territory, we've got sci-fi horror going on here. We don't mind if you push it a little bit just to make it a bit more. I wanted more of a blur or a splatter or more burning down to his bone. Or something like that.
I wanted to see like
face burning,
face melt away.
And also, I didn't really like the characters, so I kind of wanted him to suffer.
You always want them
He was
to suffer.
suffering, but I want more.
I want more suffering. That's what I want.
And it was cool. It was cool. And then obviously we've slowly got the actual xenomorph coming out the egg. As Kay's now like, shit.
She's freaking out.
And she communicates on the comms to Tyler at the same time, and we know at the same time what's going on is they're trying to sneak for a room, and he's suddenly like, oh my god, I need to talk to her, but I can't, kind of things like that. And Andy's looking back like, what the fuck are you doing? Stay quiet.
Yeah.
And he's trying to really quietly, as the face huggers are starting to get attention and move across the room. So it's a really nice and tense scene. It's really nicely shot, I think, both of them.
Yeah.
We've got those kind of along through the whole whole kind of shot where you've got Kay at the end and the xenomorph's head slowly starting to come out.
It's a really cool bit,
and all those just in the shadows where I think like if you looked really carefully you can see, because all the xenomorphs were kind of hidden on all different spots around the room kind of thing.
Yeah.
They're all just randomly spread out kind of thing. It wasn't like one big pile of them. It was like they're all kind hiding, moving around different things, like looking for something to happen. And then obviously we get into another kind of xenomorph chase because it's kind of like, shit, okay, fuck.
They all start scuttling after, and then,
Yeah, and as Kay starts to get, out of the door kind of thing and gets, thinks she's got past and getting chased through and under. And, this is probably one of the more tense parts of the film. I think this part was like, it felt quite... fresh, seeing the whole like they're right there as it's happening, as these things are changing and the xenomorphs start to come out. And I don't recall seeing them in. I don't recall seeing that egg form either, to be honest, of the xenomorph.
No, nothing springs to mind.
It's not always normally the xenomorph goes off. I've seen the skins before, but it normally goes off and then hides away and then comes out. I'm fairly sure we've even seen it in like different levels. Like it starts out tiny, gets a bit bigger, then gets bigger. This one seemed to go from tiny to just...
I remember them getting real big quite quick,
hibernating, I'm sure there's a slightly smaller version you've seen the original Alien where it's like a littler version that eats the dog and then gets to the big version or something like that. But yeah, it's really, really effective, really tense. Parts that I knew that Alvarez was going to be able to do well. I knew he was going to be able to pull off, the
practical effects and stuff. Yeah.
And the practical effects really do help, I think. I think it really brings it back to, it grounds it sometimes to feel like you actually feel like that creature is there. To see those close-up shots where you can see it's an actual alien, because it is really telling, I think, in some of the other ones when it's CGI.
Yeah.
It just doesn't look right. When you see those silver teeth and it's like drooling and you can see that's real. That's definitely a real puppet head that's being moved towards in their face. It works really nicely. So it's all really tense, including obviously when they finally meet up and Andy is change of directive as she finds out kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you've got Kay on the other side of the door as the alien, which I really loved. The alien just basically at one point was just sat watching. Just watching it all go down. I liked that little element of like, we knew that they're strategic characters, but it's not always like really developed as much kind of thing. And right here you've got like this alien just like in the background. You can literally see the shot where she's in the she's through the other side of the door. Yeah. And you can just see it on the top, just sat there. And it kind of does a close-up shot of it, just kind of sat, just staring.
Watching, yeah.
And as Andy is like kind of trying to make clear to them, it's like, if we open that door,
it's getting in.
I know exactly how this is going to work, so you do that. And obviously they're like, what the hell are you doing? And you're meant to be our friend, and why would you do this? And as Kay gets suddenly like taken away, like she gets stabbed through with the tail, and gets you're like, oh shit, well, she's dead.
I thought, oh man, she's fucked. Although I was kind of thinking like, they're not just going to kill a pregnant woman like that, you know. She's going to the lair, you know.
I mean, and to be fair, you're thinking, they're not just going to kill off the pregnant lady. That feels like almost too dark. And then actually what they do first is way darker.
Much darker.
Like way crazier where they go with it kind of thing. So you've got all those characters, and then, you know, we do get to that kind of point that sometimes comes with some of them where we've got a lot of kind of moving from place to place, kind of moving around through the ship kind of thing. Like there's no real parts that like really jumping out in my head kind of thing. I think there's a few more of those emotional kind of scenes where she's really reacting, where Rain is really reacting to the fact that Andy has changed so much, and how do I get you back, and how do I change you back.
There was a bit. It was mainly just I need to get that module out of your head, and he was no,
and
you know. And
then we get a very aliens scene where we've got a tunnel, which is all very aliens.
Right at the bottom of the ship. That was cool. You know, when they get the pulse rifles. That was a nice little nod. We find out that like they're developing some compound where they've like got the aliens' DNA and the.
So that's Prometheus and Covenant.
I barely remember Prometheus and Covenant.
So the whole liquid inside there, that is the liquid that originally is found. Yeah, the engineers made the ones they find when they, if you remember them going inside that big thing in Prometheus where there's this big room full of these little, you know, kind of looks like the eggs, but it turns out no, it's actually cylinders that have like
very vaguely remember.
It's all that stuff. That's basically what it is, and that's the stuff that was used to create the xenomorphs, and that's the basic idea. You know, the Michael Fassbender's character, if you don't remember, David basically took and experimented with that stuff and finally made the xenomorph. Basically, he created them.
I thought Prometheus before Aliens then.
Yeah, it all takes place, and so does Covenant. It all takes place before the first.
Yeah, I thought so, but then I saw a poster earlier, and I'm sure I saw, for some reason, I remember seeing like Prometheus and Covenant at the end, and I was like, how does that work? You know,
I think some people, it might be in terms of like time, because some people basically are like, well, this is kind of Alien, but at times Ridley Scott was a bit like with Prometheus, he was a bit like, well, it kind of is, but I might be kind of redoing it in my own way, and it kind of might not be, because the first one, apart from a link at the end, which everyone was like, oh, so that's the creation of the xenomorph, when the big huge tentacle thing eats the big bloke,
the engineer,
who's the creator, and then at the end there's that scene where it pops out and it's like looks a bit like a xenomorph, like screams at the end, and everyone's like, oh, okay, so that's a xenomorph. And then he was like, and then in Covenant he was like, oh no, that was
someone else.
Similar, you know, it has similar genetics, but it's not. What David is going to do is now make an actual xenomorph out of the body of the lass that was the lead character in Prometheus and whatever, you know. He made them in that, you know. It's all a bit convoluted. Trying to explain a creation of a creature and he did explain it kind of thing. Yeah. It's all that kind of thing. But yeah, so that's what all that stuff is. It even has the same kind of tube thing that you see that gets made out of all the molecules. It turns into like... So basically they've used the stuff that was created or somehow has got back, so that proves that somehow something... Because at the end of Covenant, it's basically left on a huge cliffhanger. Where basically, David has an entire ship full of people that are now under his control because they're all in stasis, and he's now got the experimentation of the facehuggers. So he's got the facehuggers, and he's now going to, God knows, he's going to go and do more experiments to work out how to change these things.
Yeah.
Which was going to lead to some kind of third sequel that I guess finally would link them back to Alien, but they never did it. So we're just basically assuming that, I don't know, maybe he just shared it with He just went back to Wayland and went, you know what, guys, I'm going to share this with you, even though it's made pretty clear he fucking hates those people by the second one. But somehow they've found that genetic stuff, or maybe they just went to the planet of Prometheus, even though they told it was a planet of death. They went to Prometheus, they found the gel and went, oh, actually, this is used for experimentation. Don't know. This is not how it's worked. But this is where people will be... And I've already seen people online who were like, oh, I really liked it until it basically tried to shoehorn in.
Yeah.
You know. And if you like if you don't realise or don't recognise it, then you don't know. So this is where it's the difference between the standard view is just going to be like, okay, yeah, fine. It's a whole chemical thing, whatever, that they've worked out, that they've taken from the xenomorphs, whatever. That's cool. Whereas I think the ones that more felt like pissed off by Prometheus or Covenant are going to be more like, oh, for fuck, you've ruined it now. This was a perfectly good alien film, and now you've fucking done it. You know, now you've brought that back into my head, or if they're trying to forget.
Try to forget that.
Yeah, or even people that did like those films but feel like they wanted this to be more its own thing and not be forced in with the rest of it, kind of thing. So that is one area where a lot of people might be like, oh, for fuck's sake, like why do we have to do this? But, you know, really all it's done is taken a xenomorph, and basically they've said that they looked into its DNA, didn't they? They found the stuff inside of it, they took stuff out of the specimen, and basically they've realised that they have a perfect genetic DNA that they can then symbolise. And as you see, like the hamster...
The hamster comes back to... Well, the rat comes back to life.
It gets crushed... And then they bring it back to life, and its whole body plumps, bones, everything cracked back into place. Yeah. But then we also see that actually
it pops up.
It has a dirty side, because it literally pops, and we see like the leftover remains of this big black goo. Yeah. With a kind of moulded away head of the skeleton of like a rat, and it's like fucking hell, like that's what happens to them. Yeah. So we've been warned, but they don't actually see that part.
They don't see that.
They don't look on the other side of the lab, even though it seems pretty huge.
Well, we got what we want. We're not going to look around the rest.
We don't need to look around the rest. Therefore, Andy, with his prime directive, just thinks, oh, well, this stuff must be good then.
This is fun. Well, I'm not a human, so I don't need to put him... I don't give a fuck to Andy.
So when they find Kay in the tunnel... And like, oh crap, we can save her, you know, as the alien's approaching, kind of thing. Oh god, that's when Andy's like, yeah, just pop her with one of these.
Bang it in, and they should be fine.
You know, it's got like a 25%. It worked 25% with the rat, so why can't it? It could work with her. And obviously, they're literally that close to doing it when it's Rainey who's like, yeah, no, I don't trust it. I mean, we haven't tested that on anyone. Yeah. And all we need to do is technically just get her somewhere to secure her body, and she'll be fine.
Yeah, 25% of the time.
Yeah, so. Luckily for that bit, they're all like, okay, maybe let's just try freezing her first before we pump her full of this strange, unusual creation. You know, no more pumping her full of goo.
No, she's already had enough goo. Yeah.
And then obviously, but this is when Tyler dies. When we get the alien kind of comes out after they're trying to get Kay out of their...
And I like
Andy
this
gets like thrown across the room kind of thing.
And then something happens to him. He hangs out.
Well, he completely I think because he's somewhat busted on the ground.
I thought it was like
the xenomorph gets onto him and like basically is like fucking with him.
It's just nuts in his mouth.
No, he's like the xenomorph is like almost like crushing him down. It looks kind of cat-like at the time, like he's playing with his foot.
I thought it was the blue thing.
What blue thing?
Because you know there's like a weird blue laser on the ground. I thought maybe that fucking stunned him or something. Knocked him out.
I think it was the xenomorph. I think it was the xenomorph. I could be right. I remember him looking at the blue light on the ground. But because that whole scene is, but even the blue light, that was all in my head, just like, this is so aliens.
Exactly.
This is like a shot straight from aliens. But again, practical. They had practical bodies on the wall.
And that's
you could tell that they were. You could actually tell they were like mannequins because
of course
they didn't look like real bodies. But I liked that because it was felt a little bit more retro back, like practical.
And a bit.
I'd take any
creepy.
Practical over a bunch of CGI fake faces. Kind of thing.
And I like the fact that up until that point, I was very much like it's one alien.
Yeah.
And then when he says like, you know, they've been busy girl or whatever he says. When you see all the bodies, you're like, fuck, there's loads of them. And as they take Tyler up, you see them all kind of like scuttling towards him. And I was like, oh, you're cooked now, man.
Yeah. And this is like, Tyler, obviously, like protecting those guys, pushes them out of the way because their tail comes down from the roof. He pushes them out of the way, gets through the chest. Well, not through the shoulder, I think it is, or something like that.
Yeah.
Through the lung into the chest, or something like that. Because he's not dead.
No.
Gets lifted up, and you see what you think is the one xenomorph, and then suddenly, from somewhere, turns out there's been loads of them anyway.
Yeah.
Apparently, just under the ship anyway. So that one xenomorph that's been there the whole time, turns out we didn't even need to follow the process of this one being created because there's been loads hiding down the bottom.
Yeah.
And then obviously he tries to fight back, like shooting at some of them, and even though, you know, not shooting because they're told the acid will burn through and destroy the whole ship, kind of thing. and then he literally gets the old little
dick mouth for the eye.
Yeah, the old little mouth. The little mouth goes through,
which is a classic.
Basically through his eye into his brain, and he gets that dead.
Which is it's a classic kill.
It's a good one. It's gore. It hangs on to it again. Doesn't linger like I was expecting. Like we've said with all of these, that none of them really linger on the graphicness that I expected.
Which makes me think there's got to be a director's cut out there, because I know that the kind of the gore is more Evil Dead,
Yeah.
But both of the Evil Dead films were much more gorier than this. I know that
I think a lot of the other films have been gorier than this, to be honest. I think the other films in the franchise are still gory. Like as we said, like not Alien, but it is in its chest blaster scene. That was gory. I know that's more like just red underneath the shirt, but it still felt gorier, and you saw it really
felt really painful.
Really saw it pop out. Really felt like it hurt. Whereas it really felt quicker in this one.
Yeah.
But even then, in other ones like Aliens and stuff like that, there's a lot of scenes where they just get like really like fucked or ripped or torn into, or you see them like splattered, like, or little mouth goes in several times, not just one quick through. You know what I mean? Like lots of those scenes. So it's interesting that this one does hold back somewhat. It feels.
Yeah, it's rather strange.
Yeah, not that there's not. There is quite a violent. There's a quite violent birthing scene later on.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, it does. It feels like it holds back a little bit at times.
But this whole it gets very Aliens, doesn't it?
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like as we get towards this, it does really. Now, there's been lots of scenes that feel like the nostalgia, like I said, like the labs, the sets, Ian Holmes, Rook character being brought back in, the whole android protection, but also against that. These are all themes that we've done lots of times and feel very Alien/Aliens. This second part that really starts to feel very Aliens.
Yeah.
Not just because it has aliens.
No.
Several of them. And again, this is another part where I think fans of the franchise might be a bit meh with it, because it feels in the second one it takes a whole team of Marines to fight freaking aliens. In this one, you've got a bunch of kids on a ship, and it has one very cool scene where she manages to take a good majority of them out by herself.
Well, I think the thing
with a special gun.
Yeah, I think the thing with aliens is that I think part of it is that the Marines are so overconfident.
Oh yeah.
And
a lot of them get wiped out very quickly.
They get wiped out very quickly, but they also get ambushed, and there is so many aliens in that.
Yeah.
Whereas in this, it feels about 10, and the gun auto aims.
Yeah.
So it felt very.
It has that extra. Where was that weapon in Aliens?
Yeah.
Because this is before then.
Yeah.
Why didn't all of them have that weapon?
That?
Where did that come from? That piece of technology feels a bit ahead of its time for considering that none of the Marines bloody had them in Aliens.
No. And I kind of feel like it was quite light gun moment. It's very much like
Yeah.
But it was fun. It was a good bit.
It was. It just felt a bit like. Did we need those? I don't think we. I don't think it was needed.
I think it was, because I think otherwise it would have been kind of like it would have been a bit too similar. I think the thing that I find is that the protagonist Rain didn't quite earn the being that badass.
Yeah.
She wasn't quite a Ripley.
I don't know if she needed. This is the one problem with the Alien franchise. They always seem to have to make a woman badass, and it's done it loads of them.
Misogynist.
He
says he has a massive problem with women protagonists. He wants males only in his films.
Yeah,
he just wants Predator.
I just want it to be the men this time. But no, they always feel a little bit like they're always just trying to be the Ripley, and for most of this film, she doesn't feel like a Ripley, which is a good thing. And then suddenly they're like, "Oh, well, let's do it. Let's do an alien. We need to make her into this badass. We need to have her kicking all this ass kind of thing." When it was perfectly fine her being a somewhat like intelligent kind of one that was kind of not quick to it, kind of worried and scared, but kind of working it out kind of thing. And I knew it was coming because, again, you're doing a homage of somewhat of Alien and Aliens, so you're going to have yourself a Ripley at some point.
And that's the thing, I feel like it just wasn't deserved. I kind of was like Ripley is...
But that's what, like, if you're going to throw that in there, then, like, and if you're not going to feel it's deserved, then take it in a different direction. Don't just try to do the same. Because this is why I don't think that the aliens part is deserved, because it feels like they just all pop out and they're so easily dispatched of. And then they're not, but they are, because they never really cause much of a threat. When those any other time an alien film has had that many aliens, it's felt like a major threat. They've taken loads of people out. They've done real damage. And now right here, even with 10, but there's still a lot that survive because suddenly the elevator has loads of them again. Yeah. So there's plenty of them in there. It did feel, this is the part of the film where it shifts, obviously, as we're getting towards the third act.
Yeah.
And it really shifted into that action. And I just felt like one xenomorph, the whole idea, and even in the original, is one xenomorph is meant to be more than enough, powerful enough.
Yeah.
In Aliens, it ups the ante because it ups the action. And this is the part where it's like, which did you want to be Alien or did you want to be Aliens? Because one's an action film and one's a horror film. And I know both are horror film technically, but I would only say Aliens is a sci-fi action film.
Yeah,
with it's not. There's not got a few jumps and a few bits, but it's not. It's not definitely not the scariest in the franchise at all.
No,
but it is a cool kick-ass film. Aliens is fucking awesome. Alien. This is almost why I'd say, like, if you want a the best alien action film, it's Aliens. If you want the best horror film, it's Alien.
Yeah, they're very distinct films, but I don't know.
Which is good. They should be distinct, but I think this is why some people have a problem with this.
It's the patchwork,
because it's just taking, it's added ideas, but we get to the third act and it feels like This is when the real patchwork comes in, because it really starts to feel not that they've not already taken ideas from previous one. Yeah. It really starts to feel the whole. The lighting, the reusing of the lines from the film.
Yeah,
there's several lines reefing. One of them really badly. As we get onto the elevator.
Get away from her, you bitch.
Get away from her, you bitch.
That felt very shoehorned.
That felt so shoehorned.
I thought it was really weird that
it felt like because of his character they were trying to add it in, because they thought, it would be funny because his character is back to kind of the slower version of himself.
Yeah.
So it'll be like. He doesn't really say things like that, but it's not, because it's like...
It didn't land. And it's really interesting because when we watched it, it was me and you and then another two people. The cinema was pretty empty, but then it was after work on a Monday, and it was like 5:30, whatever, so I'm not surprised. But
and a subtitle screen.
People
would be like that.
Something like that. And I was wondering whether, if that was like, if that had been a packed cinema opening night, maybe... Would people have been like, yeah, that's badass, or would people have just been like we were? It was a bit like it was a bit of like a groan, you know. It was a bit like
it's too shoehorned. It's not the only line that is somewhat kind of recycled in this part of the film. This gets into my obviously we've had them survive, they get through there, they're trying to escape, she takes it out, she manages to persuade him to change back to save him, and this is when they're like, we need to get up there. She sends Kay up the elevator, which is when Kay makes the disastrous decision that I'm too sick to get up there by myself, so
I'm going to jet myself with this goo.
Put that goo in me.
Put that goo in me.
So and obviously we've got Rain, who goes back down, gets Andy, and then they start doing the whole descent up there. Now you haven't seen Alien Resurrection, so you wouldn't know this part kind of thing, and I think you should check out Alien Resurrection.
I might check out.
It's fun. It's a fun, easy breezy watch. I don't think it's long. It's one of the shortest of the films because it's just that. It's, as I said, but as we're now building to that proper film, this is when I really weirdly started to notice Alien Resurrection stuff. Just recycled into possibly in some ways a better version, but recycled. So in Alien Resurrection, there is a whole scene when they go up basically a climbing a ladder shaft kind of thing.
Yeah,
and it has like one dude that's on the back of another dude like shooting down kind of thing and stuff like that. So it's a lot of the characters all trying to get up as aliens are starting to try to get up.
How big is the dude?
It's a big dude, and then it's like a guy with a
comedy sized little dude.
It's not. He's like he has a form of disability, so he's not he's not as fully grown. I don't think he has legs, so he's in a wheelchair for most of the film. So he's like being carried on the back, like he's a little backpack.
I thought for some reason of like You know when you do that thing where you link your arms and you hold them?
Yeah.
I thought it was just two people doing that.
And this is the original version, yes.
And then
all
up
these
a
guys
ladder as well.
Yeah, and they've got like the water. There's a water in like that then turns afterwards into like fire. It starts to rise. Bit Deep Blue Sea, if you imagine. There's a bit like that in Deep Blue Sea. Where they're going up the
classic.
That kind of classic late 90s, early 2000s. So but this one is way more, kind of late 90s, early 2000s, over the top action. It has one bit when the dude then like fighting, like leans his whole body back, hanging off the thing, shooting down, his whole body goes, badass. But at the same time, it's still an alien climbing up, them trying to move it, trying to escape, and then something comes down and squashes. So and that's exactly almost what happened. This film has like there is a really cool part of this that adds to it. But it's still, in my head, I was like, okay, that's a little bit kind of what happens for them when they're escaping in Resurrection. So I was like, okay, but this was different characters and it's not quite the same. But it's still like, you've done this in the Alien franchise before where someone has to climb up a ladder to try and escape and the alien's coming. So that's kind of the first one that kind of ran my head. Now the second one, we're not quite there yet. So I'll get to that in a minute. Because I've just remembered we missed the whole zero gravity part, which is quite a cool part.
Yeah, it was kind of cool.
When she blasts them, but then has to go through the acid, and they kind of have to fly through it. Kind of cool. Doesn't seem like a great plan in my head, to be honest. It just seemed like way too easy. It would have gone wrong. And shit!
Fuck! Just floating towards it.
Float into the next. Because the second one floats into you, you're not dodging anymore. You're burning and hitting the next one.
I think that would have been a really cool death.
It would have been really cool, wouldn't it, to have a zero gravity death? How did they use the zero gravity like several times in the film, and at no point go, oh shit, like blood going everywhere, body parts going in zero, that's
somebody floating towards it and melting.
But acid, like literally, like one of them melting midair, and skin like peeling, blood starting to pour out in the air, mixing with all that would have been fucking amazing.
Or you could even have the acid like staying. And then as they go through it, it's like a buzzsaw, and it just melts them.
Just melting through them. Literally, like because it's zero gravity. It's like it's almost like blotching onto around their skin. So it's like,
maybe in our remake of this
when we remake this one. It's cool. It does it really affect, her shooting through, as we've already talked about, how much like the fact that the gun just basically blasts through all those xenomorph skulls and stuff like that is going to be down to the person. Some people I think will really not like how somewhat easy the xenomorphs are just dispatched here.
Well, they were very easily dispatched, but it was.
I mean, and a lot of it's put down to basically this magic, the self-aiming gun that just blasts straight through the skull, but leaving the acid everywhere. Which then the second you look at it, we're like, well, that wasn't a good idea, was it? It's fucking everywhere.
It's everywhere.
You've got it everywhere. You know what I mean? I feel like. But and that obviously continues as they're going up the elevator. Because she's floating and then suddenly drops. Which then leads to one of the weirder parts in the film.
That was very weird.
When we have this whole, she's dropping and you're like, oh shit, kind of thing, And then the alien catches her. Yeah. Which I thought, okay. I was like, in my head, I was thinking, well, most of the time I'd imagine they'd go for more of he's the cocktail stick, you're the cheese and pineapple, because we're going through you. I was thinking more skewer. I was thinking more the alien has no reason to just catch you. It has more reason to got you,
get you,
straight through. Instead, it catches her, basically, then kind of somewhat moves her across,
and then goes over to her,
but still is. And I also found this bit was really oddly shot.
Very odd.
It was really hard to tell how far away it was. At one point, it looked like it was right next to her. Yeah. Then, as the elevator starts crunching above them, it then looks like it's actually quite far away from her.
And in the middle of
as if they're trying to explain, oh no, it couldn't just kill her straight away because it's on the other side. It's but a minute ago it looked like it was right near that ladder. And now it looks like, in the next shot, it looked like it was then further away. It looked like a continuity somewhat error there. And it was just in my head going, why would the xenomorph do that? Why would it, it would jump at you. It would grab you midair and fucking tear you apart midair.
I thought her brother was going to jump off.
Yeah, that's what I thought. To
stop him. And he'd pop off and he'd pop off. He just started beating as he falls from the air.
Gravity.
Zero gravity. As he falls down. You know, he splatters, milk goes everywhere.
But yeah, that was what I mean. Like, and again, in my head, because Resurrection has a similar sacrifice kind of part to it, I was thinking, this is where we're going. We're just doing this is just Alien Resurrection. You've just remade Resurrection, but instead he doesn't do that. He lets go of the elevator so it can go down and crush them. All of them again. Most of the xenomorphs are now got rid of.
They're fucked.
You know, without feeling like a lot of effort took for it. It definitely feels the most low effort that had to be taken to get rid of xenomorphs I think I've seen in any of these films. So, you know, that's one part. It definitely is. This is another kind of going into the third act where this is where most of my problems came. I think my only major one that we talked about was the Ian Holm part. It was my only major one before that.
Same.
You know,
and
when
the
it just felt,
but I think that's throughout the whole film for me.
Yeah, when it felt like a slightly different version of being stuck on a ship with one xenomorph kind of thing. It felt more like a, you know, somewhat homage to Alien, you know, just trying to survive, trying to get through, which I think is what people coming into this film possibly were thinking they were getting.
Maybe, yeah.
They thought they were just getting that, and then it veers into the extra explanation of the goo and the goo, the going into Covenant and Prometheus, and then we've gone into a bit more of. Well, then we've done a quick. Oh yeah, let's quickly in about maybe 10 minutes. Let's do aliens.
Yeah,
let's do aliens in about 10 minutes,
and then Resurrection.
And then we're gonna hit onto Resurrection. Fuck free. We're not bothering with that. We're going straight to and that's the thing. You know, they've killed her off. There's still one of the xenomorphs. I think it's back down to one, isn't it? It's back down to one that survives. I can't remember this. There's one alien that's coming after them now, isn't there? Or are they dead? Or actually, no, it might be none. I think we were done. They were gone.
I think after that,
of them.
It then gets down to the countdown, you know?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, and then it gets back to the, quickly, we've got to get up. It seems really fast. It starts saying 10, 9. They're like at the bottom of the ladder. It's still counting 8, 7. They're at the top of this huge freaking ladder. Suddenly, it's a bit poorly edited. I feel like if they'd done 10-9 as they reach the top, but they don't. They do 10-9 when they're at the bottom, and then suddenly they're at the top, and it's like 10, 9, 8, 7. It's like, what the fuck? How did you move that? Did you turn the gravity back on?
Yeah, and I don't think there's another alien.
No, I think that's it. That was it. The alien in this film was dispatched by an elevator shaft.
Yes.
There's no extra pop up from an alien.
He got shafted.
Yeah, definitely did. Unless we're missing something or forgetting it being at the hatch or something. But I think after this they were like, we're back to the ship. Kay's okay.
Yeah.
We can get her into cryostasis, and they're just like, now we're getting ready to leave.
I'm pretty
and
sure.
And then it's like beep beep beep. Because she plugs her brother in. It's like, we're gonna get you to the other side, and we'll work it out on the other side. And then it's like beep beep beep. Well, crap, what's going on with her cryostasis chamber? Because we all just thought she was just gonna. I was thinking it was gonna freeze, and it was when they get to the planet that she was gonna suddenly,
pop off,
or it was just gonna be like a bit of a cliffhanger, or a bit of a dark end, a bit of a. Yeah, she's there, but something's wrong with her kind of thing.
Yeah,
I wasn't sure if they're going to delve into it.
Or they'd go like, as they're floating through space, and they come up with like the vital signs. You know? They'd come up with like 2 for her. Yeah,
and leave it on that, because again, it's not uncommon within this franchise to leave it on a somewhat of an ominous, like what happens to them next, we don't know.
Yeah,
they might be fucked. But yeah, so we get this whole fucking crazy where Kay goes into birth. Her whole vagina bursts.
Yeah, it's pretty.
We get fucking blood everywhere. It's like, fucking hell, what's going on? Like, her stomach is like bumping up and down. You think
massive.
the bump's gonna burst, but it just through her legs just, and then out pops this like egg.
It's weird.
This little it looks like a little seed, big seed kind of thing.
Yeah.
And Rain grabs it to basically get rid of it, but it starts burning.
Yeah.
And she drops it, and it starts melting through the floor, and like, what the fuck? And she goes to grab like the freeze spray and stuff like that. I was like, fucking hell, okay, we're going for that.
And you see like a little human face in there when it's...
Yeah, you see, as it starts to fall through, you see like a baby. And you're like, fucking
weird
hell, what's going on here? So, and then this is the crazy third act, like end of the third act.
Yeah.
This is the crazy kind of twist. So, this human xenomorph hybrid that is now being born from the goo.
Yeah.
Her baby in her womb has been turned into a
half alien, half human.
that turns that, and it looks kind of like the engineers from.
It does, doesn't it?
Prometheus.
It had like the engineer's face.
Yeah, so it's kind of the engineer's face. So again, blending back to Prometheus and Covenant, and then mixed with like kind of the body of a xenomorph with the
and
tail
some of the
and
features and the weird things on its back. It was fucking
and
weird.
we see it pop up.
And then Kay lactates, and you're like,
she
oh,
lactates
fuck it
the
out.
goo, and literally like and then you're literally like, it comes over towards and it fucking slices Andy's neck and throws it across the room, and literally you're going up and he's like sniffing over it, and I was 100% certain we were about to get a titty second scene.
Yeah, I thought we were getting a titty.
I thought he was about to just start like we were about to get a goddamn nursing scene. Where it's like,
I mean, we do get a slight bit of tit suck.
I mean, it seems that what he's done is basically he uses a little thing and basically drains her blood, but I'm pretty sure he's sucking her through tit.
I think he's sucking tit.
I think he takes the lactate, but then takes everything else as well.
I think that's what he's doing.
He basically drains her of everything as Kay's trying to get back,
Yeah.
Andy tells her to protect, and she goes and tries to, and then he stands up fully, and it's this full giant,
huge.
like 8-9 foot kind of, basically more, about that I'd say, because it's about twice the size of her.
Yeah, it's
fully
huge.
stood up. You see it's like full tail, like proper alien, its hands and arms and its legs, but the rest of it is somewhat engineer.
Yeah, it's fucking weird, man.
And it's fucking, and this is what, again, I think we'll just kind of,
I think this will be the bit that
splicing
splits
people.
opinion.
Now,
they just
somewhat brilliant, but this is what happens. We have a Ripley alien hybrid in Resurrection.
Really?
And the end of the film is this weird creature, and doesn't look like this, and this looks far better and much scarier.
Yeah.
Whereas that is not scary. That's got some kind of, it hates everyone else but Ripley, and it's kind of like mother kind of to Ripley.
Yeah.
It's really fucking weird. It's a really weird, but it looks kind of like a big goo monster. It looks like this big like bear that has some features of a xenomorph, and it's really fucking weird. It's really bad. It doesn't look
weird as
right.
fuck.
It's really fucking weird. But basically what happened is she comes towards, it rips the head, except that has more gore, because it rips the head off one character, it fucking gnaws someone else, fucking destroying the ship. So Ripley's like, how are we going to do it? So ends up blowing a hole through the thing, and they get blown through the hole.
Yeah.
Exactly what happens here. They've literally, like, in my head I was just like, they've just remade
Alien Resurrection.
They've remade the twist from Alien Resurrection, except they've made it better, but it's just so weird. I'm like, you've literally just taken, like, lots of people say, I've seen people say like, it's something they've never done in the franchise. I was like, they've done a human alien hybrid in the franchise.
I think I might be blending one with Terminator 2, because I seem to remember the end of one where these people are like, Ripley, you're some clone or something, and she's like, and just jumps in a vat of lava. Maybe I'm mixing some things.
I can't actually remember what happened. No, that's Free. Alien Free. She's a clone. She's a clone in Alien Free, and she does end up diving with the alien into that thing, and that's how this one is made in this one, because the DNA of the alien that was killed and Ripley is taken from that goo.
From the goo.
And that's made, it's always the goo.
It's always the goo.
And that's made into this creature that they end up having at the end, the scientists making it or whatever. That's what is born in that one. So it was just like, yes, in that one, basically it gets sucked through the hole, and it basically gets ripped apart by getting ripped through the hole.
Yeah.
So it's a tiny hole that then rips this alien into, like, just spludge into space. Basically. Not like this, when they both get sucked down and there's a bit of fat. And there is what I think is possibly the best scare in the film. I found that actually quite creepy. The bit when she is in spacesuit, it goes completely silent, and then suddenly is like that old, like, what is it, the early 2000s, the YouTube video where you'd be watching a road, and suddenly the person's, you've got basically a recreation of that, but with this creature popping up into Rain's face in space. Yeah. And I thought, actually, that will make people jump like crazy.
I thought that bit and the bit...
Because you couldn't see anything.
Oh, yeah. That bit and the bit where the kind of walking through the face huggers, and they find the guy who's been hung. Those are the two bits that got me jumping.
Yeah. But this
one,
really looked so... to be fair, one thing I did like was when they were actually in space and it had been ripped through the hole, it looked so fucking like its skin was deteriorating. it looked almost like zombie-like. It looked fucking creepy as hell.
Rotten as hell.
You know, it looked like it was literally deteriorating away. It manages to basically like get rid of it, cut off, like gone, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But like I don't necessarily have a problem with it. They tried something a little bit different.
Yeah.
With that. Again, I think people are going to have the same problem. But again, I am going to state that I do think that he somewhat just basically copied the last half an hour, parts of the last half an hour of Resurrection, and just decided
we'll do that.
We'll do that, but we'll do it better.
We'll do it better, yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of it. It kind of redoes that. So if you've completely blanked Resurrection for your mind, go back and watch it and realise that there's actually a few bits that he pays either homage to or just goes, no one remembers that one.
No one remembers
I
that.
could
Nobody
just use
cares
that
about
one, right? That had some good ideas. So it kind of blends together the Prometheus Covenant timeline with a bit of Resurrection there at the end to go, here's one monster. And this is the problem. Because it shares those links with basically what I think like several people would say are three of the worst because they're either convoluted or just not as well made. Not the Prometheus and Covenant are more about being overcomplicated or having plot threads that just lead nowhere or those kind of problems. Not about not looking good or being somewhat good sci-fi films, but some of them even lack the horror kind of term at times. I think that would be some people's problem here is the fact that they thought they were getting basically a fresh, clean. Some people were even hoping before this that basically they were forgetting everything but Alien 1 and Alien and Aliens.
Oh, yeah.
They thought they were doing the retcon. They thought they would go there. But you're not going to have Ridley Scott involved in this film and he'd be like, yeah, it's fine.
Fuck Aliens off. You fuck Prometheus off.
I mean, I made 3 films, but you can fuck off 2 of my most recent films that I was bitter about the fact that I didn't get to finish. No, you can build it. Instead, it's like, no, but you're going to include it.
It's just...
it's like... Alvarez going to basically it's a thing to Alien with a bit of Aliens, which I think even Ridley Scott isn't even that keen on Aliens either. He doesn't like anything that isn't his. He thinks most of his films are the greatest films ever made, anyway, which some of them are. He's got some great films.
He's Ridley Scott.
Yeah, I think they did like a favourite list the other day. Like someone asked him, "What's your top favourite film of all time?" And he was like, Blade Runner, like you made Blade Runner. It's a great film. There you go. It's Blade. Like he was just like his own.
And he just listed 5 films. Yeah, surely that's
these are my films.
And somebody else, the person next to him, they ask him the same questions. He doesn't mention any Ridley Scott films, and Ridley Scott's like, "What do you mean? have you watched these films? Why aren't they your favourite?"
I will force you to.
Yeah, until they're your favourite, you have to watch them every day.
Yeah, so like this is like an enjoyable film that goes a little bit off the rails, not fully, not fucking the wheels fall off. Which we've had basically. I think I feel like almost every film we've reviewed this year is like
I feel like that
pretty good until the third act when the wheels
fall off.
It feels like that's been every 2024 film.
I feel like I've said it every one. This is where the wheels fall off.
But for some people, they will say that. They will be like, no, it shat the bed on the ending because it decided to change from Alien homage with a fresh kind of spin into Aliens / whatever else they decided to go into a different direction with it kind of thing. And it does some things that are nice to do, but I guess it's always they always feel they have to try and push something new in there or some different direction. But this doesn't lay out anything new that's like that's now part of the continuation. It's kind of this was a one-off.
That thing's dead.
Yeah, it's gone.
It ain't coming back,
So although they did imply that the xenomorph in the original was dead, and actually it's just like.
It's just floating through space.
Yeah, they were like, it just didn't have air or food, but it takes more than that to kill a xenomorph.
Yeah, it's the perfect organism that can repair itself. I'd shoot it 4 times in the head and it's dead.
Yeah, it does somewhat lay you to question for some people like those little parts like that, like. Oh yeah, by the way, the alien, the xenomorph in the original Alien didn't die. They just wafted it out into space and they picked it up
somebody else's
later.
Problem.
Kind of thing. It's someone else's problem.
Fuck it.
Some people will be like, "What the fuck?
This isn't
my film.
This isn't going to come back to haunt me in 200 years. I'll cryo sleep."
I mean, so it's one of those that I think for the most part the first 2 acts work well, but as you've mentioned, character is not the strongest point here.
No.
And apart from that, I guess but then at the same time, if it didn't do what it does in the third act, then we basically have quite a real simplistic story here. There's not a lot to it, but some people probably would have loved to just have had a basic xenomorph, get to the end, survive, fight the xenomorph, get rid of it, dispatch it.
Get away from her, you bitch.
And when you think of the actual alien part of it, and not the weird hybrid we get at the end, when you think of the actual alien, that all seems a little bit easier than I thought. Face huggers are probably the biggest problem here than the alien itself. Yes, and the alien does kill people, but how many people did the alien kill?
One.
He kills one person.
Yeah,
one person. So. Yeah.
Well, two if you count his blood.
Blood?
Maybe. Well, the guy who Bjorn.
Oh yeah, and then that was like you did that. You made it bleed on yourself.
Yeah.
And yeah. But basically, Bjorn is also the shittest character in this film because he causes basically every other problem that happens in it. When he does the whole spaceship thing, that means it ends up on the other side and locks them out of that. He's the one that gets them into the bloody lat, and then it closes behind them. He basically fucks it. He's the one that basically fucks that vagina.
Yeah.
And then makes that alien come out more angry. And then he's the one that basically kills himself.
Yeah.
Basically, they fucked up by having Bjorn in this film.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, maybe because I'm not so heavily invested into the franchise. I love Aliens, and I love the video games that I've played with Aliens. I even really enjoyed Alien Colonial Marines. Come For Me. Yeah, it was buggy as fuck, but I enjoyed it. It was fun.
It was fun.
I kind of feel like because of that, I'm not so like, oh, they did this. I'm not really pissed off about it. Like when we watched, Halloween, the latest Halloween trilogy, I'm kind of much more emotionally invested in that. Whereas with this, I was just like, it was a good film. It's really good. Was it the best horror film that I've seen this year? No, I don't think it was. Would I recommend people to go and see it? Yeah, I think it's worth seeing.
Yeah.
But I feel like the characters, I didn't really care about them. I like that it did some new stuff and went in some good directions. I like that they did kind of like a bit of an Aliens homage as we went towards the third act. I enjoyed the alien human disgusting hybrid. I thought that was really cool. I would have liked, maybe add 3 or 4 more characters. If you're going to have characters that are as bland and as nothing as this, get some more in there so we can see some more deaths, Yeah. Whereas when you've got 5 or 6 characters and, they're as fucking exciting as a glass of tap water, you kind of don't really care about it. But yeah, it was a good film, man.
Yeah, as I said, I enjoyed it. It's not. I don't think I would be putting it at the top of my Aliens list.
Where would you put it as a fan of the franchise?
It's not really. I don't think I'd make it one of my tops. I mean, I think Alien, then Aliens is an obvious top 2. I never really remember Alien 3, so that comes pretty low.
Yeah.
Not counting Alien vs Predators, because Alien vs Predators Requiem would be dead bottom. That's terrible. It's the only one I've any of them. I even like Alien vs Predators. I've got a soft spot for that one.
Yeah.
But Alien, the second one, was fucking dog shit. It's a terrible film.
I remember watching it and just thinking it was too dark.
It was. It's not. It's fucking terribly shot. It's just an all-round script, everything bad.
AVP was fun.
It had more blood and gore than AVP, the first one, but that didn't count because you couldn't see it anyway.
Yeah.
I think I'd put it mainly, I don't know, maybe 4th or 5th, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Actually, no. I like Prometheus and Covenant. Actually, is quite. I put this around Covenant, Alien 3 kind of area.
Okay.
Down there.
Yeah.
I actually quite like Prometheus because I think it's actually really looks great. Not all the character choices are great. Not everything works. Not everything makes sense. But it looks beautiful and it's quite an interesting kind of watch. Yeah. Whereas Covenant is interesting but convoluted, and I don't think they handled the aliens very well for the bloke that made the aliens.
Yeah.
So yeah, I put it down with Aliens 3. Resurrection is weird for me because I've got a weird soft spot for it. I think I can't. I don't have an exact ranking in my head. I just know it goes aliens, aliens. Then after that, it's like a mixed bag of maybe Prometheus and
whatever comes to mind.
The other ones are all a bit convoluted. And I don't know. I wasn't as like fully into this one. This would be like a, I don't know, 3-star kind of one for me. I liked it, but I had problems with it in terms of it being an Alien fan.
Yeah. Well, there you go. That's our full kind of initial reaction to Alien Romulus. We might get around. I mean, we're probably definitely going to get around to watching Alien and Aliens.
We need to do Alien soon.
And maybe we'll look at covering the rest of it in a retrospective. Come and let us know what you thought of Alien Romulus. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at CMTH Podcast. Remember to hit that subscribe button and please leave us a lovely review. If you find some kind of weird alien egg, don't go and put your face directly over it and gawk as it unravels. If somebody does happen to do that, and a face hugger impregnates them and they end up birthing this kind of strange alien creature, kill it before it is allowed to develop further, or kill them as the face hugger is implanting them. Don't let it get that far.
And just because it looks like a vagina, don't put your penis in.
Yeah, don't fuck it. We'll see you next week. Bye bye.